Okay, so this is the first tutorial. First one is registration. We've got a whole bunch in here. Show you what registration looks like. Basically, if it's working, it just says register success. And all that we're doing is we are just integrating DJI Android SDK into an Android application. Nothing else. This is using Android 4.16. All of the code is up here on Godfrey Nolan, that's me, DJI Tutorials Kotlin. Put them all together. I am in the first one, which is registration, and we're basically just going to walk through what we do. It's kind of not exactly the code's fine, but the whole ecosystem is not exactly the neatest at the moment. Both Google and DJI are pushing you towards the Android 5.0 SDK, which we'll talk about a lot later. But we're stuck on 4.16 if we want to use the Mavic 2, the DJI Mini, any of those. The Android 3.0 only really supports the M30, the M300, and the new Mavic 3 Enterprise. Okay, so first thing, what are we going to do? We are going to say new project. Going to say next. What are we going to call this? We are going to call this registration. Oh, hold on a second, I'm already making mistakes. So what I want to do is just follow this exactly. Get that out of the way too as well. Cancel. Let's get this out of the way. Just take our time and do this correctly. New project, empty, next. I don't know why I called it such a long name, but hey, that's what it's asking me to do. Kotlin, import, and activate SDK in Android Studio. What does it do? Tell me in detail, tell me in detail. And it's com.reese. Reese. And what are we doing? We're doing 21. Yep, so it should be okay. Finish. It's going to take a few seconds for that to go together. What's next? So basically what I'm going to do is literally just walk through this, and there's a number of things that I wanted to show in a video because when we try to get this working with the group of about 5 or 6 of us, we found that people were running into all sorts of issues. So I just want to walk through it piece by piece, file by file, and make sure that you have all the things that, you know, this kind of, make sure you have this. There's also a thing we have to do with the not just the build.gradle files, but also the gradle.properties and the local settings, settings.gradle, all that sort of stuff. And if you don't do it, it won't work. We're kind of running out of time too as well, because this all insists that we have to use Android. We have to build it with Android 30, is that what it is? The SDK version? So you got to use target SDK version is 30, compile SDK version is 31, and then Android itself gets kind of mouthy about you using 30, but if you use 31 it won't work. So let's see what we can do. Okay, so it takes time, and build Gradle index. Almost there. Okay, we have synced. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is go to our build.gradle module app. You might find it a little bit better, easy, which if you go to project, and then we have this build.gradle here, and then we have this other build.gradle here, which is the app one, which is the one that we want to replace. You can see it's already pushing you to target SDK 32. So we'll see we get a warning, but we should be able to still compile it. Okay, that's the first file. Let's do sync now. What's the next file? This is the project one. The other one was the module one. It's almost there. Okay, let's go this one. Let's sync again. Okay. Finally, make sure in your settings.gradle you only have this. So what's going on here? Well, we're adding all the files for DJI, do not strip, so basically make sure that they're the original files, not the ones that are stripped. We have our DJI SDK 4.16, NDK, making sure that the build types, that we also put Progradon for debug, which I never understood, but hey, we're doing it anyway. Okay. So by the sound of my machine slowing down, oh, it's already complaining. Build.co configured to prefer settings repositories over project repositories, but repository Google was added by build file build.gradle 19. So what's this? Let me do this first though, because it's probably this messing up. Try again. Getting there, getting there. Okay, looks like we're there. We also want to make sure that within our Gradle properties that we add this file, which is enable Jettifier. And we sync again. It's getting there. This was something that came from Stack Overflow. So make sure you put that into, it's not in the README, but I'll make sure I add it in the README before we talk on the meetup or anything, or in class. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to go back to my Android view because I prefer that, and I am going to add a new Kotlin class called mApplication, so an application level class. We're going to copy this. Package name should be the same. Okay. If you ever see sec neo, that's for the obfuscation, I believe. And in our main activity. So what do we have in our main activity? So we have a bunch of permissions. Remember, it's not doing much, it's just registering. We have our checking to see if it has missing permissions, creates the activity. You know, if you've done any Android programming, you've seen this a billion times. Checking to see some weird stuff if you're below Android 6. Then it starts the registration, and the registration basically all that does is just wants to make sure that you have the correct API key. Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. No, I'm not. And we'll need to add the API key to the Android manifest. So on request permissions result, Missing permissions, so you're going to get an error with missing permissions. If everything runs well, you'll just get a toast with registration success. The remote control will not be connected. We'll do that later. But basically, here's what we're doing. We have started our code. If we go back to our on create again, we've started our code. We've got all this stuff going, and then we check and request permissions. Make sure the permission's okay. Within that, we're going to start SDK registration. When we start SDK registration, it is going to go DJI SDK Manager, get instance, register app. And then if our API key is correct, it's going to say register success. Really, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so let me copy that now. Not a code that doesn't do an awful lot. Okay, I can get rid of that now. Okay, now we need to modify our Android manifest file. So this is basically, we're telling it this is the application level. Here's my API key. To get your own one, you will need to go to developer.dji.com. You'll need to log in, Developer Center. Oops. I am not a robot. Okay, so then within here you want to be able to say create app, and then whatever the app name is. So that is registration app. So registration, LTE registration. That was for Lawrence Tech. Okay, registration app. Okay, it's Android package name, so that has to be the com.res. Or whatever yours is. So whatever your package name is, the package name that's at the top of each of your activity files. That's what you put in there. Whatever category you want to put in. And then you just say create, and then it will send you an email, and then click on the email, you take you back to this page, and then you'll be able to see what the API key is. Okay, so also we're adding some USB stuff in here too as well, so we're making sure that we have we're attaching USB accessory attached. That's really important because the USB is what connects your phone to your remote controller, which connects it to the drone. So if you don't have that, it won't work. So you know when you put your phone in and it says in the controller and it says do you want to use the DJI Fly app or whatever the app is that you're using, that's how it gets set, because we're using that USB accessory. Okay, so all these permissions that we're asking for, and we use the USB, we're setting the application level, we have our API key, our main activity is the one that kicks it off. Okay, next. There's also some information here about how you want to, if you want to hide your properties key, you can put it in local.properties, and then it'll just load it, and then you make sure that local.properties is not in your GitHub repo. So it's a good way of hiding it. And then everything works correctly, you should see register success. I think I forgot one thing. Yep, so we gotta do one other thing before we're finished off this. So we want to go to resources, we want to go to XML, and then we want to say new XML resource file, and we are calling this accessory filter. XML. Oh, you don't need that. Don't really care because we're gonna get rid of it in a second. So this is, again, gets back to the USB. So we have a T600 AG, so different DJI drones. None of the ones that we're going to be using, but we just put this in here because we want to make sure that it works for us. And now we're going to build. Hopefully we didn't get any weird errors now this time. So I am running on, this is a pretty modern version of Android. I'll tell you what it is in a second after we get through this. I haven't updated to all the latest Gradles and everything else though. In order to get this to run when we're finished, I think this is basically what's going to happen. It will run on your phone. You're not connected to a drone. You don't need to. Won't run in the emulator, so don't even bother. But if everything works correctly, you'll get a registered success there. And hope that works for you. Let's make sure I didn't fail on anything. App merge, xdex, debug. That's if you don't have the Jetafire thing in, it's going to. So after this, the next one that I'm going to do is the camera. I'm going to skip the hello world because there's already, yay, it worked. There's already a, we didn't rewrite those, so there's always an up-to-date one in the DJI tutorials. The reason we did this is because the old DJI tutorials were in Java, and we'd already done it for lots of people here, so we just thought we'd share it with everybody, so that's why the code's out there. And let me see if I can run it. I'm pretty sure it's not going to work in this though. But the next one that we're going to do is the camera. So we're going to skip the second one, which is Hello World. We'll probably come back to it later, and then we'll do the camera next. I'm not sure how I'm going to make that work with the emulator, but we'll have to figure out a way to show you what it looks like on the screen. On the phone screen when it's connected to the drone. I'd be amazed if this actually works now when I run it on the emulator, because it's never worked before. Of course I have it on a tablet. Silly me. Okay, I'm going to stop this because I realize that this is a... oh no, it's launching activity. So we have to say yes, yes, all the permissions, yes. And then it crashed. Yeah, it's not going to work on the emulator, but at least you can see that everything came up. And then if you do get something working, then it's basically going to look like this on your phone. Okay, thanks very much. See you when we're doing the next tutorial.